Poland Daily Business Edition. Our guest is Grant Blasidell. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we'll speak tonight about the space business because you are family tied to the famous space entrepreneur, your mother.
Yeah, I have, and but she's been, as we were discussing a moment ago, she's been at the forefront of multiple things, multiple times over the past decades, including historically here in Poland as well. So her venture into, let's say, we like to call it the space economy, is, you know, her newest, let's say, long-time passion.
Right. We speak a few days after the SpaceX reached the milestone landing 3 course of the SpaceX Heavy, including two, I don't know how to say in English, the things that are covering the satellite. Previously, they were very difficult to reuse. Right now, they are remanufactured, landed in the water, and they will be reused very soon. So that brings the cost of the transportation to orbit of 1 or 2 magnitudes down. That means, according to the simple
analysis or
analysis, yeah, it means that there will be a number of customers who would like to go to the orbit.
Yep.
And this is like a first or another iteration of Gold Rush.
Well, one thing Eva's focused on, and you know, I advise and am involved where I can, is not just to focus on what you're talking about, and this is why I choose not to say space industry and I say space economy, is because that rocket is just one tiny portion of everything that surrounds this entire economy, which is, well, the manufacturer for the parts. There's multiples. It's not coming out of SpaceX. SpaceX isn't building that, right? Or at least not most of it. There's an entire economy. If you go to H&M, you go to any big stores, walk around on the street, you see how much NASA and space is culturally relevant and is monetizable as a cultural element. And all of this economy that you see across the software developers, independent, small students, etc., it's all distributed. Right? It's an entirely distributed economy that has no connection, meeting points.
The guys are meeting with big companies doing something for them, and they don't know about each other, even if they are in the same district of the same town.
Or there's no marketplace for it either. So even with like airplanes, I mean, we're going a little bit down out of space on Earth, but it's the same idea. You know, there's an entire needed marketplace for machine parts. And you're talking about reusability, right? So there's millions of these little points that all need to be connected, and all these entities need to be met and done so with trust. So something that Eva's really been forward thinking about, as you know, you've met her before, I believe, and is approaching using technology to build an economic system and marketplace for the space economy. So we can shoot as much stuff as we want, you know, in a space, but unless we on Earth figure out some sort of model and system to be able to handle that new element, then it's going to be harder.
Most of the added value of the economy that will come from the space will be realized here on Earth until we have those orbital cities or whatever.
Well, I think tokenization is, you know, I'm from the blockchain space. I think tokenization is going to be a huge element of this economy and industry on both sides, which is the biggest thing in space industry is IP, intellectual property. Who owns it? How's it shared? How's it distributed? How's it monetized? And how's that distributed, right? So that technology can solve that in an amazing way. And also once we get into mining, so how do you know, mining in space on an asteroid, how do you digitally, in the real world, with trust, represent that asset, right? So it's going to be tokenization of physical assets into a digital space, identities tied to it, and it's going to be moving around these marketplaces. So it's going to be fascinating, to be honest, and Eva says, you know, let's make it better on Earth first before we figure out the space.
Right, there will be hundreds of thousands of businesses that are spin-off, that are based on the fashion for space, new interest of the people for space. We had that in 1970s. The guys who lived through that are now in their 50s, but the new things are coming.
Yeah, well, Eva's really trying to push that culture element of it, which is reignite
Fashion.
Yeah, reignite the American passion into space and understand that, you know, that's something that really propelled and brought the country together.
The space is also a driver of innovation. The space is driver of new economies, and with that fashion, you take the new young people, ambitious, extremely capable to go and forward to the science, to technology, to the things like blockchain, in order to use it in the big space project, and that's a civilizational thing, I guess.
Yeah, I think. It's really hard. I don't think you've ever run into somebody and you're like, hey, you like space? You know, no, I hate it. Like you don't run into that. So I think there's an innate natural passion in human beings around this subject. You know, the unknown and being able to conquer the unknown, progress. I mean, no matter what side you are on the economic or political aisle, you know, I think that sort of progress is something that people can all tie behind.
Well, we don't speak about that much in Poland, but we should definitely. Your idea of tokenization of this, how it should work in the real world?
Well, I'm very much use case kind of based. So let's say you have an independent software developer in his basement, and he created something that's really great that can be applied to microsatellites. On the flip end, you have a major, you know, put in whatever, Boeing's, you know, the major providers on this end. They are looking for stuff like that, but they can't be everywhere. They don't have the insight or the access or the cultural insight into everything.
They can't listen to every pitch.
Right. So you have a central meeting point. This person has their IP that's registered in blockchain, it's tokenized, and it's tied to their identity that they have tied to them that they created. Same thing on Boeing on the other end. They meet at a central point. Let's say this person puts out the terms right away. So he says, I want to license it for 2 years at $1 million, right? That's automatically part of the offer on the marketplace. Boeing comes in, sees that, they say, okay, I match it, I do it, they trigger it. Smart contract creates the whole situation. Funds get transferred. That token that represents the IP goes to Boeing. After 2 years, comes back, right? And you don't need a middleman. Yes, you're going to have third-party applications. So you're going to have the marketplace manager.
Yeah.
But you're not going to have middlemen that are needed to handle any aspect of that. And if it needs to go to litigation, that's a different thing.
I've been part several times in those meetings of the young, enthusiastic startup things, and I was like tired after fifth talking to the guys who were trying to sell me their ideas, and I can imagine I wasn't listening to the best of those guys, because if there is 60 companies, how could you possibly listen to all of them? This is the situation that we face, and this is the shape of the future, actually.
Yeah, I believe so, and the cool thing about systems like that is that I run into people it can be applied to so many things. I come out of digital media, so actually the model for that was built for digital content, for what you guys are doing here.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate what you do, and hopefully this will be realized in very soon future. Grant Blasidell was our guest. Thank you very much, and that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.